Hello world, this is Badassatron bringing you LEGO Transformers Rescue Rex. So obviously a couple days ago it was Christmas, and one of my cousins got a VTech 3-in-1 Rescue Rex, which was a T-Rex that transformed from a fire truck, a police car, and a helicopter. And if it wasn't obvious enough, I made that in LEGO, albeit much smaller. The actual toys are really freaking big. Here we have the three vehicles all side by side. I'm not sure how accurate this scale is in terms of the toy. Definitely the fire truck should be a lot bigger, but honestly I like having them at a more similar size. I think it makes them fit as a team a lot better. Look at all the vehicles separately, starting with the fire truck. This is probably the least obvious vehicle of the three. I mean, you can hopefully tell it's some big, thick vehicle, but I don't know. A fire truck might not be the first guess, mainly because I think this, like, fender is so far extended. I like the look, but I personally don't think it looks like a fire truck. I did include the ladder. It is a little bit long, maybe too long, because there's this noticeable gap in the back, but I kind of made that to help with the transformation. Honestly, it's a very clean vehicle mode. There's not much. You can see some hinges, and there's a small gap, but other than that, I think it's a relatively fine vehicle mode. Everything compresses together nicely, and there's not that much telling you it transforms. One very small nitpick is that this piece right here extends ever so slightly further down than the entire rest of the truck, which means it kind of sits leaning backwards, which might annoy some people, but it's really so small that I don't care that much. And for a size comparison, here he is with a minifigure, so you can tell this fire truck is very, very small. Next up, we're going to look at the police car, which is the smallest of the three, and easily the simplest. I also think it's the most apparent that it transforms. These two ugly clips where the hood's at do not help. You can also see some clips in the back, and if you look on the bottom, there's this whole like hinge assembly. You may also notice this very, very tiny gap right there. Another nitpick is that the front wheels, you may notice they extend ever so slightly further than the ones in the back, but I find at most angles it's really unnoticeable, so I don't mind that much. Overall, it is just a simple little car, and I think it pulls off that job very well. Anyways, here he is with a minifigure. So he's small. Finally, we're gonna go look at the helicopter, which was the hardest for me to build, mainly because it just took a really long time for me to find a transformation that made the helicopter skinny enough to actually look like a helicopter, not like a bird. I mean, you can still see it kind of look like a bird. The tail of that helicopter obviously looks like a tail. We've got the landing gear, which just kind of looks like little feet, and then the cockpit looks like a head. There is a propeller in the back represented by the stud, although I mean, it doesn't really look like a propeller. I probably could have used like a 1x2 like flat piece, but I don't know, I just think in the transform, like in the alt mode, it looks ugly. There is just barely enough clearance for the blade on top to rotate, and it is just connected on a jumper, so it can spin perfectly fine. Normally, helicopter tails point like up and down, but the Rescue Rex has them pointed to the sides, so I made it toy accurate because this is just based off like a Lego version of the toy. Anyways, here he is with the minifigure. I think all three rescue vehicles will make a very cohesive team. I like how they're all so similarly sized, even if that is a tad bit inaccurate. With the actual toy, the helicopter and police car were relatively the same size, while the fire truck was basically double. So shrinking down the fire truck was a happy little accident that I think makes them look more like a trio and not just two little guys tagging along with one big guy. But that's all I have to say about the vehicle modes, so now it's time to combine. Okay, we'll start with the fire truck. If you've seen the actual toy, this transforms in basically the same fashion, with the fire truck becoming the legs, the police car becoming the head, and the helicopter becoming like a combiner section for the two. So first we're going to take the fire truck. We'll just lift the ladder up for clearance, and the bottom section will fold out, and then we can just rotate the back of the fire truck out. Then we can rotate these sections around, rotate them down at this section here, and then we can rotate this slope and rotate up the wheel to form a foot. And we can just do the same on the other side. You can just extend those down so that these things are about a 45-degree angle. Finally, we'll take the fenders of the fire truck, lift it up, shift them down, and rotate them back so that out of the way. Leave a little clearance because the wheels do kind of get in the way of the legs. And there we have the bottom half of the T-Rex done. The police car, you're just gonna rotate this top part down. The head will look back, and the wheels here will just shift backwards. And there you have the head of the T-Rex. Finally, the helicopter. We're gonna just shift the cockpit down, move the blade out for clearance. The helicopter tail will lift up and then rotate out to the sides. We can lift these forward, not lift, but bring these forward. And there we have the arms of the T-Rex. Finally, we can take the fire truck, attach it to the helicopter right there. We can take the police car, connect it to the helicopter right there. We can rotate, oh, I knocked it off. We can rotate the blades straight. We can extend the tail back a little for counterweight. I can move the camera up a little bit. And here we have the Rescue Rex in combined mode. In combined mode, we've got a very, very, very chunky T-Rex with little baby arms and a little baby tail. The tail is really inaccurate. It should be much longer, but I couldn't really fit it into the fire truck without like making either the legs really skinny or the ladder just really long. Like you saw in the vehicle mode, the ladder was already kind of disproportionately long, so I didn't really know what to do with the tail here. The arms are a little stubby, but I kind of like that look. It gives him less of a monstrous vibe and more of like a little cutie patootie little T-Rex. There is a very ugly gap on the top here where the police car connects. I tried to cover it up with the helicopter blades. Maybe I could have used a 1x8, but I think in it looks way too long on the actual helicopter in alt mode. If you want to be a parts former, you could shift this up, but I don't like parts forming that much when I don't have to, so I'm not going to do that. Honestly, I think these three combine really nicely. The helicopter and fire truck, they form this like kind of rounded silhouette of the body. The helicopter blades do kind of stick out, but man, what are you gonna do? I feel like the head is a little bit small, but that might just be me, I don't know. The helicopter actually takes up a lot more space in this like creation than it does in the actual T-Rex. It's mainly just like the fire truck. The fire truck becomes like most of the entire toy, with the car transforming into the head and the helicopter just being a small section that combines the police car and the fire truck. So I'm glad I was able to give it a little bit more of a actual purpose. For articulation, this guy's arms can swivel backwards and forwards, and they are hinged right at that joint, as well as the wrist, the wrist. Although I don't really see like using the wrist and the like actual joint here separately, since it's really too small to even matter. The head can look up and down. There is technically this additional means of articulation because of transformation, but I think that looks really weird unless you want to turn your T-Rex into like a Brachiosaurus or something. You'd never really use that. The tail can just move up and down. You're probably never going to use that since the tail's way too small and kind of needs to be there to actually help this guy stand, because he's very top heavy. Down at the legs, his feet can move forward and back, rotate left and right down here, and at the thigh can rotate forward and back, outwards. It is kind of angled because of the way I have it. You can't really straighten it because the wheels from the fender kind of get in the way, but it's usually not too much of an issue. Overall, this guy was a fun little creation make. I'm definitely gonna use him to like fiddle around with on my desk. He's just a cute little goober. Oh, I nearly forgot. Minifigure. For once, he's actually taller than one. Still definitely a very small T-Rex though. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this guy, so I'll see you all in the next one.